So back in 2025, Apple announced that macOS Tahoe would be the last release to support Intel-based Macs, thus ending the past decade of mutual platform harmony between Windows and OS X, and taking us closer to the way things were in the early 2000s, because at that time, macOS was only released for PowerPC-based systems. And so, if you were a Mac user who wanted to run some Windows software, you're pretty much out of luck. That is until programs like Virtual PC for Mac came onto the scene, which allowed you to emulate a Windows computer right on your Mac. And today we're going to explore this version of it from 2004 to see how well it could do that. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So this is version 7 of Virtual PC for Mac, which was the last release of this software before Apple started their transition to Intel processors, which basically made this obsolete because this is an emulator that had been around for a while by this point. It was originally developed by a company named Connectix and first released in 1997 until Microsoft bought it from them and started slapping their name on the box in future releases. And if you wanted to pick up this version back in 2004, there were a few different ways that you could get it. You could buy it as a standalone product, though it also came in a bundled copy of Microsoft Office for Mac 2004, not this particular version, but this is how it would have been packaged. And then, like I mentioned, there was just Virtual PC on its own. So this is the standalone version, which would have sold for $129. There was also an upgrade copy if you had Virtual PC version 5 or 6.1, and that would have saved you a little bit of money at $99. But then they had versions that came with a copy of Windows already bundled in. So by the time Virtual PC 7 came out, you had one with Windows XP Home Edition for $219, one with XP Professional for $249, and one with Windows 2000 Pro also for $249. And in the case of these two, this actually saved you a pretty substantial amount of money when compared to the price you would pay for a standalone full version of Windows XP Pro or Windows 2000 Pro, especially in the case of Windows 2000 Pro, because at that time, Microsoft was selling copies of it for $319, probably because they really wanted you to buy XP Pro instead for $20 less. Now, XP Home did sell for $199 for the standalone pricing, but this bundle is still way cheaper than buying a standalone copy of this and XP Home. So you're kind of getting like an OEM discount that you would benefit from when purchasing a brand new PC with Windows already pre-installed, but I still think it is rather funny that it was actually cheaper to buy Windows through this bundle and run it on your Mac than just buy a standalone copy and run it on your PC. So let's go ahead and crack this thing open, and we'll take a look at the software in a minute here. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. You just have the software case here. We open that up, you've got the disk, and you've got all the documentation, which we might refer to later on in the video. But let's go ahead and pop in the CD and get this thing installed. So before we get started, I want to manage your expectations here because one of the things that I read in a couple reviews on this software is that it is apparently pretty slow, especially when running Windows XP, which is what we're going to be trying to install on it today. But obviously this will depend on what hardware that you have. Now, the system requirements call for a 700 megahertz G3, G4, or G5 processor, 512 megabytes of RAM, 3 gigabytes of available hard drive space, and macOS 10.2.8 to 10.3. We are exceeding all of those requirements on this system because this is a dual 1 gigahertz PowerPC G4 system with 1.5 gigs of RAM. I think we have like an 80 gigabyte hard drive in here, so we've got plenty of space. But I am curious to see like what we're going to be able to allocate to it and just how the overall performance is. So let's go ahead and get started by ejecting the disk drive, and we will pop in the installation media. And there it is. So we're just going to start by installing Virtual PC. Now it looks like it's going to just do everything from this initial setup. So it'll install Virtual PC, set up Virtual PC, and then set up Windows. So let's just hit continue. And it gives us the README. We might refer back to this later, but we'll just hit continue for now, hit continue and agree to the license agreement we're totally going to read. And yeah, there's our disk drive, so we'll install it on that. And type in our super secure password. It requires us to restart the computer once we're done. That sounds good to me. And it finished, so let's go ahead and restart. So when it boots back up, it immediately loads the installer again, and you see now we're on the second part here. So we're going to set up virtual PC. So at this point, it'll ask us for the product key, which I have here. It's now eligible for support. You're kidding me. And that's all the personalization. It was just entering the name and your organization if you wanted to and your product key. And then it loads up virtual PC. And then now it's going to go through the virtual machine creation wizard. Now already this looks very, very similar to Virtual PC 2007, which is the Windows version that I used a lot. It was actually like the first virtual machine software that I ever used. So I imagine that this process is going to look very similar to that. You got three options here. You could install your own operating system, which is what we'll be doing. Install from a virtual PC for Mac CD. So this is probably what you would get if you were to buy one of those bundled copies. So the Windows installation was contained on a separate CD, I guess, and it wasn't just like a full installation disk that you could just pop into another computer to install Windows natively on it, which I didn't really think that it was. But yeah, so that's how you would do that. Or you could import a previous version if you had a virtual machine set up. So we're just going to install your own operating system, create an empty virtual machine. We're going to choose Windows XP Professional. You see you have options for DOS, Linux, and Unix and unspecified. This is all just like virtual PC on Windows. We don't get NTFS, interestingly enough, as the hard disk format, so we have to go with FAT32. And we'll just name it Windows XP Professional. It will save it in our documents. That's fine with me. And now install your operating system. So insert the manufacturer's CD into your CD drive and click Start PC. So let's eject the installation disk. And we'll get our copy of XP Pro here and pop that in. And then we just click Start PC. So you've noticed we didn't get any customization options for like setting up how much RAM we want to give the virtual PC, what we want the hard disk size to be for the virtual disk. We'll have to see if we can mess around with this stuff later. You see we've got like, okay, we do have a virtual disk assistant. This is our CD drive. We've got CPU usage preferences. So, okay, yeah, here's, so you've got some options in here. I do just want to go through the installation first, and then we'll come back and mess around with that later and see how much customizability that we get. So from this point on, it'll be a pretty basic Windows XP Professional setup process. So we're going to agree to the license terms. We have our FAT32 partition. It looks like it is 15 gigabytes. Now, we do get the option here to convert it to NTFS. I don't know if that's going to affect whether or not the virtual machine is going to work, so we're just going to say leave it intact. And now we have to do a lot more waiting with intermittent entering in our username and time zone and, of course, our product key. You can't forget that, right? And I would suspect this is probably going to take as long as it says, or at least close to it, since, again, this is emulating. This is not just utilizing the host processor, because, I mean, it can't do that since it's a completely different architecture. As of right now, I don't know what processor that it's emulating, and I don't know how, like, us running a dual G4 system here affects that, like if it, will kind of increase the amount of system resources that it has for emulating the processor, if it emulates a faster processor. That's all stuff that we're going to try and figure out once we get this installed and start using the operating system. And of course, we'll also power it off and go into the settings and see what options that we have in there. But I think I'm just going to go through this whole setup process off camera, since you guys have certainly seen this plenty of times by now on this channel. And we're back. So the virtual machine did restart, and you see we are about to launch into the out-of-box experience, but Virtual PC came up with a little message letting us know that virtual machine editions are not installed yet because we are not at the desktop and we haven't finished the installation completely. So yeah, we'll just hit continue there, and it looks like the VM kind of went asleep there, or maybe it was just because that message was up. But anyway, we'll click on OK. And we will just go through the OOBE here. You see it did resize the guest VM, so we'll just move the window. I'm curious if it will be able to utilize the internal speaker here on the Power Mac. It doesn't seem like that right out of the box anyways, because yeah, it just went, oh my gosh, and look at Look at that coming in. Is that even coming in, that little animation there? Let's just hit on next. That, I think, is the first slowdown that I've noticed. I mean, the setup and everything was totally fine. Okay, there, the question mark finally came onto the screen. And, okay, checking internet connectivity, we don't have that set up right now, so we're just going to skip it. No, we're not going to activate right now. We'll put in our name, and that's it. So, finish. Okay, I did notice I have... Is the sound volume just turned... Oh, yeah, oh, it is way off. Okay. There we go. Now we actually have the sound up, so perhaps we do have audio working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so sound totally works. Just forget what I said earlier. So, yeah, we have... I mean, it's got some display driver loaded, obviously. We'll take a look and see, you know, if that's just like a generic one or if it is like a virtual PC specific one that it has installed. I am really curious to go into system properties and see what hardware that it's emulating. Well, we made it to the desktop, so that's exciting. We successfully installed Windows XP. Now, let's see how well that it's able to run. I think I'm immediately going to go into system properties just to see what we got going on in here. So the computer identifies itself as a 686 processor running at 531 megahertz with 256 megabytes of RAM. So if the 686 is referring to i686, that would mean that it could be emulating anything from a Pentium Pro to a Pentium 3. But unfortunately, we don't get any more information than that. And then 256 megabytes of RAM. So yeah, let's see if we can just power this off. And I want to go into the VM settings. Okay, we do have PC memory. So we've got a slider for this and a slider for VRAM. So again, we've got 1.5 gigs. So why don't we just up this to 1024? Oh, 512 is the maximum. Okay. And then total VRAM... we can up this from 4 to 8 to 16. How much VRAM do we have in the host system? 64 megabytes. Okay. So we can up that to 16, and that will give us a resolution that this monitor cannot support, so we're not going to bother setting it to that. But yeah, so basically maxed out on the RAM, maxed out on the VRAM, and then I don't see anything about the processor. The other thing I found interesting is it didn't give us the option, at least unless I just went by it, like really quickly during the setup, but I don't remember there being an option to specify the disk size. I wonder if that's because we did like the Windows XP Professional profile in here. So like when we set Windows XP Pro, we did FAT32, and then yeah, it just went to create PC, and when you hit create, it just does that. So I wonder if we change this to like unspecified. No, that does the same thing. So we just can't like specify what the hard drive size is? That's kind of strange. We'll just move this one to the trash. I mean, can we like expand this somehow? Well, we can add additional ones if we want to. Can we like make one? Does it have a hard drive creation wizard? It doesn't appear there's a way in here. I wonder if there's a separate wizard maybe? Like if we go up here, let's just do a search for like hard drive in the settings. Create a new virtual hard disk image. Okay, so in Virtual PC on the window menu, click Virtual Disk Assistant. Okay, here it is, Virtual Disk Assistant. Okay, examine or modify existing hard disk image. Select hard disk image attached to a PC, or select hard disk or floppy image file. So we have an image file. So what if we choose our XP Professional file? I guess it's not stored in there. Where is it? Documents? I mean, Virtual PC list, but this isn't the actual file. Okay, I just went back into the Create New PC wizard, and like, this is the hard drive creation screen is just going to save it in Virtual PC list in that folder. So, like, I don't know if we can even select the hard disk file to increase the size of it, because I don't even think this is the hard disk file. This is just the whole, like, Virtual PC itself. So the drive must be, like, contained in here or something. Of course, there it's going to start up. We'll just close out of that for now. But you can go to the Virtual Disk Assistant, create an empty floppy or hard disk image, create hard disk image, select disk location. We'll save it in just documents. And then Okay, we get the operating system selector, we'll say XP, and then here we go. Okay, so you can make a disk of a specific size that you want. So the default maximum is 15 gigabytes. I wonder if that is... Oh no, we can go way higher than that if we want to. So if we want to make this like a 30 gig drive and then hit create disk, it will do that. And then I guess just save that file in... Where? Documents? Yeah, virtual PC disk. Okay, so this is a separate disk file. And like I said, I guess the other one is just contained in the virtual appliance itself. Okay, I finally found it. It is inside of this. You have to right-click on it, show package contents, and then there it is. So yeah, I guess you would have to extract that from here if you accidentally set a different hard drive disk file as the hard drive. Anyway, we're just gonna move on, but yeah, so that's how you would create a custom-sized hard drive file if you wanted to, but I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one since we don't need it. So we'll do that, empty trash, and there we go. So anyway, back in here to settings. We don't have anything for the CPU. We do have the ability to add 3 different disk images to it if we want at the same time. There's an undo drives feature, which is probably like a, you know, it won't save changes when you close the PC window, your hard drive disk changes can be saved or discarded. You've got mouse options, shared folders, I assume will work once we install the guest editions. So, yeah, dock not installed. So this actually, from what I was reading, has, if you've ever used VMware on Windows, there's that Unity feature where you can, like, display windows and stuff just on top of your host PC Windows. It's pretty cool. I, like, never use it, though, on my host system. But, yeah, there is a feature like that in here where, like, you can get access to Windows stuff from the dock, and I assume that'll work when we install guest editions. And then application preferences. So we do have CPU usage when virtual PC is in background. Okay, here's some more info about it. This setting determines how much of the CPU on the Macintosh that virtual PC can use when virtual PC is running simultaneously with other applications. So it's set to medium by default. This changes in performance depending on the type and number of other applications. So we'll set this to high. We've got all that set. Let's start up the VM once more. But out of the box, we have all of the core stuff working, so we didn't have to install drivers for the display or the sound. But we'll go into Device Manager and just check all that out, because I am curious to see like what display driver that it has loaded to. So let's see here what we're working with. We've got an S3 Trio 32/64 adapter, alright. And what do we have under sound? Is this just going to be like a Sound Blaster thing? Yeah, Sound Blaster 16 or all 32 are compatible. Next up, I think we're going to install that guest software that it talked about earlier. So, by the way, you press the command key to get your host mouse pointer back. So we'll go up to PC, install or update additions, and there we go. So here's the wizard. We'll just breeze through this really quickly. Alright, we're done. So does it have to restart? It does, so we'll let it do that. I actually want to time the boot up process here. So let's get the clock over here. And once it does the restart. So we're starting at 20 seconds, we'll say. Okay, it took about a minute to get to the desktop here. Now, we still haven't actually loaded everything yet. It's still coming up with our system tray. Now, yes, we did just install a program, so that certainly could have affected our boot time, but that feels like what it was the past couple of times that I started this up. So, yeah, about a minute to get from power on to desktop. So, go ahead and just minimize date and time there. So, I think at this point, we can start taking advantage of the like integration feature. So I'm curious to see how this dock stuff works. So let's see, I think we go into PC settings maybe, and then go, yeah, so show Windows applications in dock, show the start menu in the dock. That will allow us to, yeah, there it is. So a start menu is in the dock. We can go here. Start menu cannot be loaded. Cool. All right, we're off to a great start. There we go. Okay, so it's not the exact same start menu in the guest. It does look like the classic start menu, but it is, you know, modified, or, you know, this is like a custom program, I guess. Like it says Virtual PC Windows XP Professional. If we go and change the start menu properties here to the classic one, let's just pull these up and do a comparison side by side. So there is the XP one, and here is the one that we have on the host system. So we've got like the same options except for log off. Shut down, run, and help and search are grayed out. And then I guess when you launch a program in here, it'll bring it up. I actually don't know. Will it bring it up on the host, or will it bring it up in the VM? So we launched control panel. It will bring it up in the VM. So what about applications showing up in the dock? Is that when we minimize stuff? No. Okay. How about, oh, no, okay, so when you click on a folder, it, like, just gets rid of the whole menu. So let's open up Solitaire, and that opens up in here as well. So, oh, wait a minute, okay. Well, that just brought an application icon here in the dock. So that's interesting. Now, what if can we get rid of this, and, like, when you click on this, I guess that's just going to bring up... Yeah, it'll just bring up the whole virtual machine, so it doesn't like separate this window into like its own thing. Again, I am comparing this to VMware Unity, but that was a feature that I imagine came later after this. And again, it wasn't even in Virtual PC on Windows, so I'm comparing it to a non-existent feature in the Windows version. But anyway, so yeah, it seems like... I guess it's only... Okay, no, there we go. So, maybe because Control Panel is like a part of Explorer, like, I guess it doesn't open up Explorer windows in the dock, but it will do, like, other applications. So, like, if we do Windows Media Player, that will open up here. What happens if, like, Solitaire is the active window? We'll minimize the whole thing and click on Media Player. Will that change the active window? It doesn't seem like it does. You see Solitaire is on top now. We can't click on this to get over to command prompt. So then, like, what's the point of having these in the dock anyway? Because it's just literally like clicking over here. It just brings back up the whole window and doesn't change what the active window is. So, okay, that's kind of unfortunate. But I mean, I guess you can see like what's running. How about if we open up Internet Explorer within the virtual machine? And so there you go. Can we right click on here and click on quit, and that will quit just Internet Explorer in the VM. Okay, so that's cool. So I could open Internet Explorer and then pin it to the dock. So I guess what that would allow you to do is you could hide the taskbar and just not even use this interface in Windows XP, and then just like have everything integrated with the dock. Now the only thing is, yeah, when you launch stuff and then you go up here to minimize, it will just minimize it to the taskbar, and then you can't get back to the program by clicking on this. It'll just bring up the window. You have to go down here and still use the taskbar to, you know, get access to whatever window you want. But so you've got some integration, and I do think that having the start menu down here, even if it is this like custom application that's not like the exact same thing as just the real Windows start menu, that is cool, you know, so you can just launch stuff from here. But personally, like, the reason why I forget that VMware Unity is a thing is because I just never see the point in using it, because like, why would I go through all that? I can just do it in the VM. It just works better for me anyway, so that's why that I never really use that. But we'll just go in and turn off auto hide the taskbar and get that back. I wanted to see if there's any like file copying capabilities. I don't think there is, but let's just do a search for copy here. So you've got copy information between OS 10 and your virtual machine. Okay. You can drag a file or folder or copy and paste text or images. Okay, so you can totally do that. That's awesome. So like if I want to go into, let's just open up like a text edit here and make just a document. Just call this test and then save this to the desktop as untitled. Close out of that, and then I guess we can just drag this into the VM and it will copy. Sweet. So and then I could like add some more text to this, save it as test 2 or untitled 2, and then drag that back to the host computer, and then I can open it here on the Mac. So okay, that's pretty awesome. And then I assume it works the same way with text like it mentioned, so we can do a Command-C there, go into just run and then do a Command V, and oh, it actually types it out. That's kind of neat. So it doesn't like, it doesn't paste it all. It's actually like entering the keystrokes. That's an interesting way of doing that, but it does work. So cool. And I have to say, like, the performance in the VM, like, once you kind of get everything up and running, it doesn't really seem to be that bad. Now, of course, we are definitely taking advantage of some much beefier hardware here with the dual G4 system. But, like, yeah, I mean, I can open up my computer, go into the C drive, show contents. We can have this running, and let's go and open up, I don't know, like a game of solitaire. Go under games, see how long it takes this to come up. Actually, let's try pinball. I also noticed it does take a little bit, there's a little bit of a delay for the application opening up here in the dock, but that's not a huge deal. So, yeah, here it is. I mean, no slowdown with the graphics. The sound seems to be coming through just fine. We can be really annoying there if we want to. And we'll just launch the ball here. Yeah, I mean, seems to be working just fine. Let's see how long I can last here. I actually don't like want to go through a whole game of this. I'm like barely having to do anything here. Oh, here we go, and launch it. Oh, look at that, dude. This is like the best I've ever done at Space Cadet Pinball, and I'm barely doing anything. Alright, I think that's enough of that for now. But, I mean, you can see, it runs totally fine. Now, of course, we gotta put this thing to the test with the good old Half-Life rule. So I've got that disc here. We are going to, of course, you guys know it, you love it. I have had some people tell me not to stop doing this, so I don't think we're gonna stop doing it. And you know, I think we are going to just do a new game instead of doing the hazard course like we've done in the past couple videos where I've tried out Half-Life on some weird computer setup. So we're just going to leave it at the default settings and see if, okay, well, we've got it running at like the 320 by 240 resolution, so that's awesome. And we did not want to get out of that. Okay, I changed my mind. Let's go into configuration and change what the video mode is. Can we change it to Direct 3D? Do we have DirectX support? Well, it's not looking super promising. Yeah, it just crashed. Okay, so cool. I guess we're gonna be stuck with the software renderer then, or maybe OpenGL. Okay, there. That actually looks proper now. Okay, so right off the bat, definitely a little bit, let me turn the volume down a little bit so I can actually hear myself talk. Yeah, we have the mouse cursor displaying, which isn't supposed to happen. And yeah, I mean, you can see, like, we got, okay, like, it's moving the mouse around is a little bit, like, it's, you know, it's not great. We can, of course, change, like, the mouse sensitivity, but it definitely looks like, I mean, it seems to be running, like, mostly fine in terms of just smoothness. It's just that the mouse is, like, unbearable to use. It is really just moving around a lot here. I'm, like, barely moving the mouse. So, like, this is just, okay, we'll slightly move it down here, and we'll get to where we're looking out the back of the train. I mean, yeah, video-wise, it seems like the performance is fine, but let me go into settings and see if we can change, like, the mouse sensitivity. Well, that's definitely not the solution, because you see now it barely moves, and I'm actually going to move the mouse out of the VM, because it's not, you know, locked in. I assume that's a setting that you can change. Let's go to PC settings, mouse, PC cursor tracks, max mouse. That should make it to where when we're in here, it does just stay in the VM. So, let's go back to configuration and change the mouse sensitivity up. Okay, well, that got rid of the mouse pointer being in the center of the screen and moving around, and now, you know, I'm not moving out of the VM anymore. And honestly, it's not bad. I feel like I could move the mouse sensitivity up a little bit more from where it is. We do see there's a little bit of lag, like, when moving around, but it's definitely not the worst that we've seen on this channel before. So I'll just let it get to the Sector C labs, and we'll kind of go from there. Alright, so here we are. Now, I will say, coming off of the train and, like, going through the first gate and everything, I did notice it did start to slow down a little bit. So, I guess we're gonna have those moments throughout the game, you know, if I were to play this whole thing on here. But, like I said earlier, I mean, it's not the worst, you know. I've definitely had much worse performance on some of the other systems that I've tried this on. But that being said, I mean, I would much rather experience this game on the Windows 98 PC that I've got behind me, which runs it pretty flawlessly. So, overall, yeah, Virtual PC, I almost said 2007, Virtual PC version 7 for Mac, a pretty decent piece of software, I have to say. I think that if you wanted to run a handful of Windows applications on your PowerPC Mac without having to just buy a whole nother computer, you didn't have a Windows system available to you, this would have gotten the job done. It's certainly not perfect. I mean, like I said, we have noticed a few slowdowns, and you know, running like any game on here is probably really going to push this thing to its limits. But it's got some nice integration features. You know, the ability to have like a start menu in the dock and the Windows XP applications show up in the dock. That's all pretty cool. And I think for $129, especially, you know, if you didn't have a copy of Windows where you could actually spend a little bit more than that, but still less than just buying a full version of Windows, and you didn't have a PC to install it on, well, maybe this would have made sense. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody out there if you guys used this software or, you know, any of its competitors on your PowerPC Mac back in the day, and, you know, what your experience with it was like. But I think that is going to wrap it up for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this one, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.